This video contains gratuitous use of profanity and uncomfortable pauses to compensate for lack of professionalism and original thought. Viewer discretion advised.
Of madness. We bring to you the Nerdy Manroom show with your hosts, Hassel and Monster. Monster, man, been a while.
It has. It's been a busy few weeks, unfortunately. Luckily, we don't have a ton of news after these 2 weeks, but man, it's just been, for us both, I know we were talking about it earlier, but it's just been a long couple of weeks for work outside of this, so it's good to get back together and get to talk a little bit. But before we get too far in, let's just go ahead and thank our sponsors as normal, These Own Collectibles. You can find them located at their store in Tifton, Georgia, 305 Main Street. And you can find them on the internet at theseowncollectibles@gmail.com and on Facebook at These Own Collectibles. Visit them for all your nerdy needs, from comics to Legos, trading cards, toys, games, and more. Help them support the local artist community through their cause of bringing unity through community. Fandoms Unite. And you'll hear a good bit more about them this episode, or at least from them this episode, because they were able to share with us the free comic book day stuff, and that's what we're going to be covering in a little bit later. But as usual, why don't we kick off with the news? And Hassel, I know you've got some Braves updates for us, most likely.
Well, we've slid into the second place in the NL East. We're still not a great team. We're 6 games back behind the Mets, just under 500, but maybe he's in the second place, so they're not last place any longer. But they start a new series with the Padres tomorrow night, so it's a home game series. So maybe we can kind of edge in and gain a little ground there. But nothing too exciting just yet. The Falcons aren't doing anything. Obviously, they aren't doing anything yet. So it's been a slow time for sports at this time of year.
Well, we do have something interesting from sports, and again, this is entertainment sports, but you and I were talking just a little bit yesterday, and we saw that Freddie Prinze Jr. has announced that he has plans to start his own wrestling promotion. Now, we know from past history that he's a huge wrestling fan. He, despite having a budding acting career, he still made time to say, hey, I don't want to act for a while. I want to go actually write for WWE, and he did that for a good little period there. And but coming out of nowhere with this announcement of he's planning on starting his own promotion, and I know when we were talking about this, you thought it was just kind of is this really a real thing?
Or is this just somebody talking? When I first read it, I was like, I forget what side it was, and I was like, this is bullshit. I just thought it was someone piggybacking off of, the fact that, like you said, he did write a good bit during the Ruthless Aggression era, which, hey, he had a lot of good talent under his scripts during that time. So, I mean, he's got the experience, but I don't know, it's kind of interesting, but at the same time, it's like, ooh.
Well, and the first I heard of it was just earlier this week, listening to another podcast and they were talking about it, and I was like, really? So I looked it up, and apparently he's already secured 3 years worth of funding. The promotion for the promotion, it can run at a loss for 3 years, basically, based on the amount of money he's got now, depending on how much they spend for talent, obviously. But and he's saying that he could have it up and running within the next 18 months. He's already got a deal with a studio, and they're willing to work with him. His biggest thing about taking 18 months is just because they want him to travel overseas with them to do some stuff. And he's like, I really don't want to do that right now. And he just kind of said no to that. So they're taking a little bit longer. But, the few things that he's said about this promotion, he wants equal time between the male and female wrestlers, which I think is good if you can get enough female ones that are good. But I just don't see the talent out there for it right now. There's not a lot of them that are really at that caliber that you could give them equal time with the show. I think it would still be at best a 70-30 split, but that's just my opinion of what I've seen.
Because AEW probably has as deep a women's roster as at this point, and you can tell they have those A-grade players, and then it's like it don't go to B or C. It goes straight down.
It's a steep drop off, and that's what I was saying. If you had multiple levels, I think this would be great, but I don't think you have. I think you have A players, and then you drop down to about D and E list. I'm not seeing the middle ground talent there.
A third big promotion, I think, is going to be real tricky because there's only so much talent to go around.
Yeah. Well, and here's the other thing that's going to make that really, really stand out and really different from either of the two big promotions right now is that besides wanting to do this on a scale of, hey, the TV is going to be in a studio that we own, we're always going to shoot it there and only do local house shows for ticket sales outside of the television taping. The big thing, was that he wants it to be under the Screen Actors Guild union. So everybody would be a SAG member to be in the promotion. So how would that could hugely affect the other two promotions because now you can't go back and forth between them because you're in a union. They don't accept unions at the others. Does somebody look at those others and say, hey, if they can do this with the union, why aren't you doing it? You get into enough trouble in Hollywood and that entertainment world with that, and that can lead to some very big lawsuits, very big, hey, we're going to sign everybody for a union, and does Vince go for that, right? I mean, we talk about the two big ones, but Tony Khan would go for it.
Vince will never go for a union.
Yeah, that's what I think. I think Tony might one day, but I don't see Vince ever doing it. So where does that leave you then?
I'm gonna be honest. I think that's gonna be their make or break. Really, it's a hell of a gamble that it may surprise the hell out of us and really pay off. But I think he would have done himself a better justice to say, what I'm willing to do is offer you medical insurance.
Yeah.
It's not something a lot of them don't do when you get hurt. It's on you unless you're a top, A-tier, talent.
Or you're serving another purpose in the company, like the EVPs and AEW. They've got it because they're considered employees. Everybody else is just a contract labor.
So if he'd offered some medical of some sort, I think he would have done himself just as much service as what he's trying to do with the union. And he's trying to get those. But unless he really lures, I'm gonna say he'd have to lure two huge names, and because who they're gonna work with. You don't want to see them work with each other because you've done seen that shit. And at the same time, who are they going to work with? If you don't, so you got to have two huge names and then some really great talent to showcase around them, which was something that I will say AEW, they've done a pretty fair job when they started out with. They had 6 name brand guys and then they kind of built around them. But some of those that built around them, they blossomed into some stuff, but they were not initially.
But even if he's able to sign 2 big names, they're going to have to be people who are willing to burn the bridge with the other 2 companies.
Oh yeah, they'll be done.
Because unless those other 2, unless something forces those other 2 to go union, they won't. And then where are you at? And I think it changes some other stuff in the game too. Like, so when you get into the union, just like doing your own stunts or doing things, they can refuse to do stuff in a movie or a TV show. Are they going to refuse? Hey, I don't want to get color today. I'm not going to get juice. I don't want to cut myself, or I don't want to fall off that cage. And then it's like, well, what do you do now?
At what point does that take away the passion of the sport at that point? Because if you're known as a Jeff Hardy type wrestler, you go there, you can refuse that shit and still make money. I don't feel like this. I'm gonna go out here and do a few little hip tosses and call it a day. We'll ring it in and go. I don't know. I think he's maybe boxed himself in with some of these promises.
Yeah, and the union will make that worse, but I even see that now with AEW. Like, I see a lot of the guys on there doing some of the stuff that like that's crazy, and they'll do it. But if you look at the physique of some of the ones who have left WWE and then got into AEW, it's like, I don't have to work as hard. I'm gonna let myself go a little bit. And I've heard a lot of people talk about it, but just looking at them, like Adam Cole is a perfect example, and Keith Lee is a perfect example. Keith Lee has doubled in size since he left WWE and joined them.
It's not mass. It is chewed bubble gum.
Chris Jericho, when he got the flabby waist, and then Adam Cole looked like he shrunk to nothing. It's like, where did your muscle definition go?
I will give Jericho credit. He has lost about 25 pounds.
He has come back now, but for about 2 years he looked rough.
Yeah, when he first got the title, he just let himself go after that, and I guess he knew he was boxed into 5 years anyway, so who cares? But
yeah,
and now he's nearing the end of his 5-year deal, I think. So he's trimming back down, and I see Jericho. He's wanted to go back. He will go back and finish with Vince.
Oh, I believe that too. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. I mean, we've got a while before anything, and it's just now been announced on. He announced it on his podcast, and it was on what's the guy's name? Ariel Hawani that does a lot of wrestling podcasts, and he talked about
He
it
does
on
a
there.
lot
But
of the UFC.
yeah, I mean, it's out there now, so it's getting around. But it's 18 months away at best. So we'll see how it plays out. I guess I'd like
It's
to
kind
hear
of like
more
when you
about
get the
it.
teaser that Doctor Strange will return.
Yeah.
You know you're 2 or 3 years away. It's hard to get
Yeah.
excited.
Yeah. But we can jump over to some other news, and we might see some more excitement for us. So let's jump to our toy news. Super 7 came out yesterday and revealed Thundercats Ultimates Wave 6. These are LJN style versions of some of the Thundercat figures we've already seen, and it's really just repaints into those toy aesthetic looks. But we've got Mumra, Monkey, and Chitara and Lion-O in the set. Nobody knew, so I'll be honest, I was a little disappointed. There's nobody new in this set. We still don't have a full set of all the regular cats. I would have took these LJN ones and spread them out across multiple waves myself, just say, okay, we're going to give you those too if you want those, but it's going to take you a little longer, so you keep more interest longer. I saw no reason for this set. And then, besides that, they did themselves a disservice because they're already taking heat for the Tigra and the paint and the work on Tigra and Pumaira. And you announce this, and then you said you're going to put it up for pre-sale. Then, 10 minutes after the pre-sale is supposed to start, you're like, oops, we made a mistake. We're not ready to start this pre-sale. And now it just says coming soon, and there's no word of when they'll actually drop. I even checked again today just to see, and it's like, hey, you guys, you keep messing up this line.
Yeah. Personally, I want to thank Super 7 for this wave because this means I don't have to buy a single damn one. But it's
Fair.
like
I'm in the
like
same
you
boat.
said, we've already got how many Lion-Os and
This will
Mumras,
be number
and
4.
the people that are buying these bought the Matty Collector ones as well. So for them, it's way on up there.
Yeah.
Okay, you literally just in the last wave got Monkian, and they're doing a Chitara who hasn't dropped, but she will drop just around the time this drops.
Yeah, she's actually that one has finished production, left the factory, and is on the water now. So
Yeah,
in the next month or two, you'll have them in your hand.
So it's like, wow, your figure selection of these was not the best.
No.
And really, they're just different heads. That's the only thing I've seen that's different. The bodies are
The bodies are exactly the
100%.
same, just painted differently.
The extra hands are the only thing I've noticed is the Lion-O head sculpt does look spot on for old LJN. Mum Ross did too. The others were kind of
Chitara's did
a little.
well.
It was like, okay, but
And the repaint looks just like the figures. And I will say that like some of the accessories, like Lion-O's claw shield, is that orange stiff shield that has no definition to it. So yeah, they did some of that, but at the same time, not only did we get Lion-O in 3 different waves, including the red evil version of him, we also just got him as a re-release of from the Wave 1 set, and it just dropped the same time that Waves 2 and 4 arrived in the U.S. So, I mean, it's still sitting at the store collecting dust if it hasn't shipped already.
And when I first seen it, when I seen Lion-O, it brought back a lot of great memories.
Yeah.
Because when you see that head, it's like, oh man, I remember opening that LGN. But aside from that, it wasn't enough. It didn't pop enough nostalgia for me as a collector. So you know what? I want to drop another $60 on this bad boy right here. No,
me either.
Now, if that line was maybe at $25 a figure, I might well buy, another line.
Yeah, and I've got for nostalgia for me, I've got a book that's about the history of the toy line and the TV show Thundercats. I still haven't started reading it, but I went and got that off of Amazon for like $10-15, and I'm like, well, that scratches my nostalgia. It's far more than buying another $60 figure.
Yeah, it was poor thinking. The only thing that worries me is the fact that they put them all in one wave as opposed to spreading them out one a wave, like what you were just saying earlier. Makes me think that they realize the longevity is not there.
No, and I wonder too if they looked at that and said, okay, we've announced one more wave that's got new figures and stuff in it, but do we just give up on the line after this because we were having such a hard time? We're taking so much heat about this line in particular, and so let's just throw these out there and this is kind of the repaint and end all. Or if people buy it, then maybe we'll try another one.
I think this is the wave that they're using to regroup. This is something you can get out there fairly easy. You only got to retool a few heads because the hands and everything that comes extra with them is pretty much, spot on what came with the other ones. So they can kind of do some repainting, minor retooling, and while they're doing that, they can regroup their people there, they just threw all over the damn bus, in the last 2 weeks.
But you just made me think of something, and I really hadn't even thought of this. If you want this LJN style line, they're going to have to put a lot more effort into it to actually get to the whole line, because the Wave 2 stuff that came from a different factory, the factory they're working with that they keep complaining about that screwed everything up for them, they own the molds that they created for the Tigra and the Pumara, so you can't get LJN versions of them. This just repaints those. You'd have to actually remold those figures.
Well, another thing is, look at several. They're not the first company to put a LJN style figure out. AEW's done it. WWE has done it over the years.
Yeah.
Typically, when you go to a store and you see something on the shelf, what is the one that you see 3 or 4 of when you're scrolling through trying to find what you want?
Yeah.
Those LJN figures. They don't sell well. The hardcore collector, he's going to buy that offline because he don't want damaged packaging. And in the store, they're just not going because your hardcore collector's not in there trying to get those.
Yeah, but
or not enough of them, anyways. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, but if you're a made to order like these are, and it's an LJN company, and you're trying to get an LJN collection, you might be screwed to get a full Thundercats collection because they don't own any of the sculpts from that Wave 2 of figures. They would have to get all those remade, and they're not going to sink money into that at this point.
Super 7 can't afford any more negative press at this point, though.
No.
They better hope that there's enough of that wolf, what I'm not seeing out there to happen.
And all their negative press is around Thundercats. They're not getting the negative press around Silverhawks because nobody else is doing anything with them besides Ramen Toys, and they're like, yeah, we'll wait, whatever. Ninja Turtles, they seem to be on time with. Most of their other stuff comes out pretty decently. But they do get a lot of negative press on the Thundercats, so it's kind of making me wonder, are you just regrouping, or are you saying, okay, we're going to sneak this one in as the last one, and then we're calling it quits? And we say, yeah, we tried to change to what the style we were doing, but it's not going to work, so we're out.
That's a shame because there's a lot of figures out there that you still haven't got that you would like to see a part of them. But
yeah, when they announced it, when they gave the teaser for this new wave, and I saw it was the LJN looking Mumra, I was like, okay, give me that, but that's fine because I'm not going to buy it anyway. But I just need Snarf and the Kittens at this point to finish off the actual Thundercats. But there's a lot of other figures. Like, we haven't seen Willa or I can't remember the other girl's name. We haven't seen any of the Robears. We haven't seen who else?
Hachiman.
Hachiman, yeah.
I want him and Driller.
The Tuska Warrior.
Him and Driller are the two that I really want to see show up.
What about the Tuska Warrior? You remember the walrus-looking guys?
I do.
Yeah.
That would be pretty nifty. There's a lot that they could still do, but do they do it at this point?
Yeah, I don't think they do, but we'll see. One line that they do well with is their Ninja Turtle one, though, and they do have a pre-order up for an exclusive standalone Ninja Turtle figure. It's a glow-in-the-dark foot soldier. That's up for pre-order now. It looks pretty neat, but if you're collecting that aesthetic, like I said, I didn't buy any of their Ninja Turtles. I went for the NECA because it was more animated looking, whereas theirs is more of the toy style.
I have their Metalhead, and I was actually really impressed when I opened him, and I did open him to.
He was already open.
Yeah, but I had to reopen him. He had to go out, and I changed a few hands and heads and whatnot, and my stepdaughter was not as impressed with the glowing eyes in the light.
The light piping.
Yeah, I was like, how can you not be impressed with this? This was the shit in the 90s. I mean, this was like...
I see so many collectors and younger kids who are getting into collecting now, like even my son, that's like, oh, this one's got light piping. That's cool for this character. And then, but 90% of the light piping, they're like, well, I don't get it. Just paint the eyes. And I'll admit, on my masterpieces, I'd rather see the painted eyes than the light piping on my Transformers. But like for him, I'm like, half of his have it. And he's like, if it's on Hot Rod or Optimus, that's cool. Rest of them, just paint their eyes. Paint them blue or something.
Well, it depends on the figure to me. It's cool on this because it's a nostalgia wave. I mean, you're buying this for the nostalgic. And then these are or at least the Super 7s. They're the ones that are supposed to look like the toys.
Yes.
So, yeah, it suits it to me.
Yeah. And little paint on some of them can make them pop. Like I'll admit, the train combiners from Transformers, if those eyes had been light piping, they would not pop as good in the face, but their faces are really neat looking just because they do have the paint. But it depends on the character for me.
The only other nostalgia one I almost went in for a little while back was the NECA version of Muckman. and he was glow in the dark. You
Yeah,
opened it up,
I've
and
seen that one.
that just looked very, very cool to me. It was like, oh man, it just oozed early 90s.
I came close. If it would, if it had, they had the frog sets at my local Target, and they had just stuck them on clearance, and they were like, instead of being $50, they were around 30. I was like, okay, that's a little bit off. They only had one pack of the frogs. They'd had all 4 frogs. I might would have bought the 2 separate sets. But the one I saw that I wanted was the pack with Ace Duck, because I loved Ace Duck. And I was like, ooh, I'll buy him for $30 because I don't care about the other character with him. I can't even remember who it is. But then I get to the scanner just to check, and it's like, oh, this one's full price. So it got put back because I wasn't spending 50 on it. But
Not today, Ace Duck. Not today.
Yeah, but I would buy him. But some of those look great, and some of them are just kind of, I'm not spending what they want for them. But since we're on the nostalgia pop you mentioned, let's talk about Mattel, because they're Masters of the Universe Masterverse 40th anniversary He-Man figure is actually up for sale now. It's like a $24 price tag. So he's a little more than, because usually they're only 19, so he's a little bit more. But he's got that great nostalgia style packaging. It's the same style packaging the rest of the Masterverse, but they repainted it to look more like the original cards and stuff. And I thought that one was really neat. I actually went in on that one and pre-ordered it from
I
Big
had
Bad.
zero problems spending $24 on that guy. I was like sold.
Yeah, same here. I went straight for it. But let's jump over from Mattel to Hasbro, because we've had a few things going on over there in the time that we weren't able to speak and record. But we did get just a little hint. Marvel Legends team has still been out doing some rounds, making some more interviews, especially after the whole take away the window in the box thing, and they're still doing more. But one of the things that's come out in one of their recent interviews is they have hinted that there might be another HasLab project from their team later this year. It's not a surprise given the fact of how well they've sold all their HasLabs. Their Galactus, their Sentinel have sold and tripled in price in some places. But they said they didn't know 100% if it was going to be this year, if it's going to be next year, but they're saying that they already have one lined up. We just don't know when they're going to do it at this point. I will admit, I went for the Galactus. I didn't go for the Sentinel. I only went for the Galactus to build a set with my Fantastic Four figures and stuff. And depending on what they make next, which is I'm curious of what would be next for them, because I'm like, where do you go after those 2 large ones? Do you do It's easy to say and do a Celestia or something because you just take Galactus and start retooling them, but I don't think they'll go that route because I don't think they'll get the sales out of that they would other stuff.
One, that's too easy to do. 2, I think the fans will turn on them for it being too easy to do. So what is next? And that's my thing. Is I have regrets about not going on Sentinel, and especially the Sentinel, and even Galactus. So I'm kind of curious. The only other alternate route is a vehicle.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Do you do a Quinjet? Do you do the X-Men's Blackbird is more recognizable than the Fantastic Four, Fantastic Car?
Well, I think the Fantastic Car would be a little too underwhelming. If they do a Blackbird, though, son of a bitch, take my money now.
I gotta think they'll go somewhere else though, because they've already done X-Men and Fantastic Four. So where else do you draw from the properties that you have?
Well, Quinjet would probably be easier, honestly, because if you look, it is a little more scaled down and not as sleek or stretched out as a Black. But do you make it if you make it in scale to fit a legend or 2, and it may just be a deal where you can fit 2 legends in or something like that.
Do you go the Spider-Man route and do a Daily Bugle building as a playset? That would be an interesting one.
Monster, is that why you haven't been able to record? Are you secretly working with HasLabs?
No, I wish I was. It'd probably be. While I like and I enjoy my job a lot, I can never really complain about it. I would say that working it for a toy company and designing toys and stuff, not that I could design and draw, but look, just the ideas of stuff for doing toys does sound like a dream job for me. So I don't think I'll ever have it, but hey, it sounds nice.
You wouldn't wake up dreading going to work, I promise.
Yeah, and I don't now, except for the days that I have to travel, and it's not the actual going to somewhere to travel; it's just the actual execution of traveling, getting to the airport,
interacting with other people.
Yeah, getting to the airport, getting through security, getting my bag checked, or getting in the car and driving 6-7 hours. That's the part that's dreadful. But since we're talking about going on far journeys, let's jump over to Hasbro's Star Wars live stream in the galaxy far, far away. Hasbro did confirm they will be at the Star Wars Celebration events in May. And I think there's more than one. I know they had some on like May 4th and all, but they said they're going to be at some other ones. I think I don't know when the big one is, the one that Mark Hamill had to back out of because of scheduling conflicts and stuff. But that's sometime this month as well. But on their live
What
stream,
does he have to schedule? He's
that
done
dude,
with Luke. What is he doing?
yeah, but he does a ton of voice acting and everything else too. So you got to remember he's got his hands in a lot of stuff, and so I don't know what he's got going on, but I just remember him saying that he wouldn't be at it, and there was a big thing of, oh, is he not coming because of this? He's like, no, I just have a scheduling conflict I couldn't get out of, so it just fell at the wrong time. But they did announce a few new toys, retro card stuff. They've got a 3 3/4 inch Kenner style box set with Stormtrooper, Vader, Luke, Leia, Chewbacca, and Han. All these were released before in individual packs, but now they're going to be in a box set, and they have the actual Kenner packaging, and it's the actual Kenner type style figures with the, hey, I've got the push thing in my arm to take my lightsaber out, and it doesn't remove come out of your hand stuff. So for those vintage collectors, that's a great thing. Just say, hey, I've got something that looks like the original toy. That's supposed to be available at Disney Resorts on the 25th of this month, and then on Shop Disney Impulse on the day after that, the 26th. Black Series wise, we've got several things that they showed, and some of them were actually pretty cool. This is the first time we've gotten a lot of stuff that wasn't just repaints in a long time from them.
Yeah.
So already up for pre-order now. You've got for Black Series, you've got Return of the Jedi Leia in her Ewok gown, figuring Dan, who's one of the Max Rebo's band, and you've also got a deluxe Nolan Shield, and I may be saying the name terribly wrong, but that's another one of the members of the band. I think that was the drummer, but that one's a
Big
Pulse
problem. We
exclusive.
need him.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's the Pulse exclusive one because he comes with the full drum set and stuff. Whereas Figuring Dan comes with like 3 different flutes. So if you buy 3 of him, you get the whole woodwind section that they had there. There's a new Republic security droid, and then for role play, they had some really neat stuff, which was a Darth Vader helmet. Now that helmet, they've done a helmet before, but this one looks much more detailed than the last one I saw.
It does. The lenses are even red on the eyes. I mean, it looks great, and it was fairly reasonably priced.
It was, and I didn't think, honestly, while I this is almost the one that made me break down and buy, even though I want to build my own at the Galaxy's Edge at Disney. But the Force Effects Elite Obi-Wan lightsaber,
Obi-Wan saber,
that thing looked immaculate.
Yeah, it did. I looked at it and I looked at that price tag for about a good 20 minutes, probably one day. The day it dropped, I was just like, I looked at the back toy store just staring like, I don't need this.
Yeah, I was doing the same.
But I need this.
The only thing that kept me from doing that is just taking a look on Instagram and finding somebody building their own saber at Galaxy's Edge and how they do that, because you build the saber, and then there's like when you connect it to the blade, it's inside this tube and all, and everybody brings them out and it opens up, and like, oh, well, that makes me want to go build my own now even more than I want that one.
But
so.
see, you can disconnect the hilt from the actual, blade itself, and you can see the kyber crystal and all that in this one here. Yeah, which I feel a little ripped off because I have some of the earlier models. I have the Anakin hanging on my wall right here.
Well, see, that's the
and
same
while
way.
It's really cool and light up, I don't got a kyber crystal to stare at.
That's the same way the ones that you build at Galaxy's Edge are. You actually get to pick your kyber crystal, put it in there, and build the whole thing around it, and you get to pick different parts of the handle and the emitter and all.
But isn't it more of an experience here? Like certain things select you, or you're not able to fully.
It depends on if you pay if you do the just to get in the park and go to Galaxy's Edge version, only one person out of your party can build a saber, and there's a limited selection. But if you pay like the $200 per person, you get to pick whatever you want to build your saber with all the kyber crystals. You got access to anything they have in there, so you can build it.
I've read.
Yeah, I looked into it.
Somebody had, went into there and like they were so dead set on getting, the Sith crystal and all this stuff, and then they got like something really weak. It's like, oh man.
Yeah. If you pay for the full experience, you get all of it. You get to pick whatever you want. Now there was for a while, they also, and I don't know if this is still the same, but they had for a while like the kyber crystals where you go pick your color. There's a blacked out, I guess, container where you pick out of, and you either get there's only a red one with sparse so much throughout that. So I think that's for the regular experience. That's not for the $200 package per person. That's for the regular experience in there. And you dig through that and you just pull out a random one. So either you get another color or you can get a random, but the random ones are like 1 out of every 100 in there.
Yeah, if I got anything other than green or red, I'd be pissed.
And that's just for those. I think you can still pick like a green or a blue or whatever just out of their regular ones. But if you want a red one, you have to dig into that container for them, and you can't see in it, so it's a random choice.
Ah.
So yeah, they're trying to be fair about it, I guess. But I would just pay for the experience and build what I want. But that's the only thing that kept me from buying Obi-Wans, because Obi-Wans look so great, and I was like, I really kind of want that, but I really want to design my own handle too. So.
Well, let's be honest. I mean, how cool would it be to actually go and sit in the Millennium Falcon? Because
Oh yeah.
they were just starting to put all that into Disney the last time I went, and I did get to do the they had a the episode 7. They had a top ride, 40 top rides you could ride. It was pretty
Yeah.
cool, and they had a really great museum that was cool, and then they had like some pretty small, not the AT, the other one with the two-legged one. They had a couple of
That
those.
AT.
Yeah, I mean, they had those there and stuff like that. That was pretty nifty, but they hadn't built the big park at that point, or the
Yeah,
add-on. They were in the process.
they didn't have it last time I was there either, but I do plan to go to it within the semi near future, maybe one day. But with that, let's jump over to some of their other stuff. They did have a few. So one of these I had marked under reveals because they just revealed it later, but now it's actually for pre-sale as well. But I'll get to it in a second. But the other reveals for Black Series, 187th Battalion Clone Trooper, which is a Walgreens exclusive. It's just another trooper with another paint job. To me, I don't really buy any of those.
Hey, but he'll put that 187 on your ass, son.
Yeah. Pipeline reveals they showed the HK-87, which is another droid type, and then Jedi Luke Skywalker, which looks like it's from Mandalorian Season 2 from the pictures of it. I'm going to guess this is the body that they had for the Rancor one, and they just changed out like the belts and stuff on the scope, because that's the only difference I can see, and it's the pinless one. So I'm sure this is the one that they threatened that you'll never get if you don't buy the Rancor. Now they just put a new belt on it and gave it a Season 2 Mandalorian name.
Well, you won't get Jedi head on it. You just get 5 year later head on it.
Yeah, I'm going to buy that one either way because it's
It's head.
Jedi.
We don't turn it down. I mean,
And then Ewan McGregor revealed a Black Series Obi-Wan Kenobi Wandering Jedi Obi-Wan figure for the new series, and he revealed it on Jimmy Kimmel Live. And this is the one I said was a reveal, and I didn't know when it was actually going to be a pre-sale. Then it went up late yesterday, so I didn't get a chance to update it on here on our news notes and stuff. But it's up for pre-sale now. I've actually ordered myself one. I really like this figure because it
looks great.
It does. I mean, just to be a different body sculpt and some different clothing that you don't normally see for a Jedi and stuff, it looks really cool. I cannot downplay that one.
Slumlord type look to him. I mean, I like it.
Yeah, I've that's one I've had to debate. Do I order two and open one? But I haven't opened any of my Jedi, so I'm like, okay, I can convince myself to only buy one at this point.
I've only opened one Black Series, and that was Darth Maul, and I kick myself in the ass for it now. Not because it wasn't such a great and cool figure, but just because if you got an unopened one, because that was the very first wave, he's fairly up in value now.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
I will say that he was one that I did think about, like, who do I get to?
yeah. This is the first one I've looked at getting to, and I didn't do it yet. I may still break down and do it because you got plenty of time. It doesn't come out till like January, but right now I'm telling myself, no, don't do that. Don't click that button.
It's a rabbit hole.
Yeah, it is. Lastly, from that live stream, we've got the vintage collection stuff. A lot of this went up for pre-order already. It's a Clone Trooper pack that's a Pulse exclusive. There's a Gaming Greats, which is a fan channel exclusive, which is going to be either you have to go to either GameStop or on Pulse for it. It's the Force Unleashed Stormtrooper Commander and Jedi Fallen Order Heavy Assault Trooper. And then back to regular releases, you've got Ahsoka 332nd Clone Trooper, where they painted their helmets to look like Ahsoka's markings. Mandalorian Super Command Trooper and Attack of the Clones Padawan Anakin. I don't really collect any of the vintage stuff. I think a lot of these actually look good because most of them are not repaints at this point. They're actually new molds, so they look cool. But again, I don't have a place for them, so I'm not trying to branch out any further.
No, and I will say a lot of times their sculpts are a lot better than the Black Series. I mean, they look very, very cosmetically appealing. I just don't want 3 3/4.
No, me either. While we're on Hasbro, though, let's jump over to Transformers real quick. They did put a pre-order up for an official Masterpiece Trailbreaker. Actually, I think he looks really good, but compared to like the third party I've got is very slender, and his upper body is not as bulky as this one, and his backpack doesn't stick out as far or protrude, and it's very sleek and all looking. So I'm like, it looks great. If I didn't have this one, I would have went for it. But in comparison to the third parties I've seen, especially the Ocular Max and the X Transbots, and the Fans Toys, which is still a debate when it'll ever show up because it's been on order for 2 or 3 years now. If you're buying one of those, but those all look better than this one. Again, I don't think they're keeping up with their competitors. I do want to touch on one other Hasbro Transformer thing I saw today, and it's not even Hasbro necessarily. Well, it does touch on it, but Humble Bundle, which is a site where you can buy bundles of stuff, and usually they're supporting different charities. Hasbro has partnered with them, and I just saw this right before we recorded. Hasbro's Children's Charity has partnered with them, and they're doing a countdown to the end of IDW's run of Transformers. For $20 or more, if you donate $20 or more, you can get digital copies of up to 53 trade paperbacks that they from IDW collection. It's a $539 value for all those books if you bought them physically. And 20 to 25 bucks. I mean, they're digital format, but that's still a lot. I mean, it's every volume of their main Transformers title. It's the Unicron miniseries they did. I saw that they had Redemption of the Dinobots miniseries. All of their Beast Wars stuff was in there. Their title, when they changed their title to More Than Me CI and had Transformers, and then they had More Than Me CI, all those volumes are in there. I mean, it's a ton of stuff. I was going through it earlier because I may end up doing it just to get them because my son loves to read those. But I couldn't believe how much it was. I mean, it's a ton of stuff in there. There's 20 days left to support that if you want to, and that was checking it as of today on May 12th. So if you're interested, go to Humble Bundle.
Charity?
It's Hasbro's children's charity, so they donate to different children's things like children's hospitals. They buy toys for tots, things like that. And you can donate as much as you want to. If you donate $1, you get like four. I think there's 2 trades and then 2 like oversized 100-page books in there. If you buy that, if you do $10, you get like up to close to 20 of the trades, as well as the stuff that's the larger size books. Like they have like the best of Optimus Prime, best of Megatron books in those first couple bundles, and it's classic stories from the Marvel run that's reprinted into there. But it's like a 100-page book. But the $20 bundle, if you pay, and you can donate as much as you want, but it'll give you 53 titles in there. I thought it was really neat, and I will probably go in for it just because one is supporting that charity, but for two, it was a ton of stuff if you're interested in it. So for anyone who's looking at it, you can find it on tformers.com and one of their stories, or you can just go to Humble Bundle and search their bundles, and it's not very hard to find at all. I've never been to the site before, but it was real easy to find it. But with that, I think that takes care of all of our toy stuff. So we'll jump over to our movie and TV news, and we'll try to go through some of these a little bit quickly just so we can get to some more important news we have coming up in the comics. But we do have the next Doctor Who announced. It's Rwandan-born, Scottish-raised actor. Gosh, I'm going to butcher this name because I really don't know how to say it. Nkuti Gatwa. I probably butchered that very seriously. He's most famous for his role as Eric on Netflix's sex education series, but he's been named as the new Doctor. Pretty young looking guy. That was my only thing. Was like, man, he looks really, really young, and I wasn't. I was like, man, I kind of wish he'd been a little bit older looking, but I will say I've watched that sex education series on Netflix. It's a funny comedy. He is hilarious on there. So the comedy he can bring to it might be okay, but
apparently they've been catching a little shit for it because they changed ethnicities and all that stuff, and you just had a Fugitive Doctor, where they done that, sexes and that. So they were like, did you do too much by having both of those together within a season or so? And they said it had nothing to do with that, that clearly he was just the best actor that had come in the room, that he blew them away when he read the script. And I'm hoping that's why they've done it, honestly, myself. I'm hoping it's not just to make a statement. I mean, if they're wanting to take the show to get it back on track, he suits that. God bless. I'd love to see Doctor Who get back into prominence because it is sadly fallen.
And he is now, and I will say he may be very. It may have been his performance, honestly, because I will say that he's just looking into him. He's very Very well trained, got a degree in acting and everything. But I mean, he's been in a ton. He's won all kind of awards. Been in a lot of William Shakespeare plays and theater and stuff, and overseas and all. And I say he got on this show, Sex Education. He's been in a lot of others. That's the first one I've seen him in, and he's great on there. So if he can bring some of that smart ass comedy that he uses in there and translate it into the Doctor's idea of what the Doctor should be, then yeah, it'd probably be pretty good.
He is incredibly young, but I mean, they are Time Lords.
Yeah. Also in movie and TV news, we got CW officially cancels DC's Legends of Tomorrow and Batwoman. I quit Batwoman after season 1, but Legends of Tomorrow I actually really enjoyed, and they just introduced Booster Gold in it, and I was like, no, don't kill it after you put him in the last episode.
Booster's just the rarest killer.
And I saw today, and I didn't get a chance to add this to it, but they've also gone ahead and picked up Gotham Knights TV series, as well as they named off like 4 or 5 other shows. Most of them were not comic series, but Gotham Knights was. They picked up the Supernatural prequel, Winchesters. That was the other one that caught my attention. So we'll see those coming soon. But the Legends of Tomorrow hurt my feelings. I like that one. I enjoyed it. I hated to see it go.
It felt like it did cater to the fanboys a little more than the others, as far as what they wanted, without it being big screen.
Yeah.
Adaptations.
And there's no comic for that, or at least there wasn't until the show started, and then they tried to make a little offshoot comic of it. But so you had the leeway of having the characters and treating them right, but you could do all kinds of stories that you would have normally that you don't have to behold to the series from the comics, right?
Well, I mean, would you have got Brandon Roth back as Superman without that? And you got to come back as Kingdom Come Superman. Come on, that's pretty cool.
True. Along with that, for DC, we saw that they've released they've announced a Green Lantern Beware My Power animated movie coming out in July. This one focuses on John Stewart. It's the first movie to really use him in it. I will say I watched the preview of this, and it looks really good. I was a little perturbed because it's like, okay, you've already got everything that exists, and you've already got the League, you've already got Hal and all the others, and they're like, and that's fine to introduce John Stewart. I like the character, but they show you in the preview that, Hal Jordan and all these other people who were here died in this catastrophic event, and that's how John got his ring. I'm like, nah, that's not how he got his ring.
Well, why was a Guardian in a spaceship at the side? That's what I'm wondering. Because, like, you almost put a Guardian in Abin Sur's spot, and it's like, are you kidding?
Yeah.
He's the fucking Guardian of the Galaxy. He doesn't travel in a space shuttle.
Yeah.
Man.
I
didn't catch the voice. I was at work when I was watching, and I just kind of skimmed it because I'm excited for John Stewart because he is one of my more favorite Green Lanterns. But
he's top tier for sure.
Who's voicing it? Is it the cat from Justice League?
No, it's Aldous Hodge, Aldous Hodge. I think it's his name. It's the guy who's going to play Hawkman and Black Adam.
Oh man, come on! How do you not go with the Justice League, John Stewart?
That dude, I want to say that's Phil Lamar, but I might be wrong. But hey,
yes, dude, that voice is just iconic for him. I mean, like it oozes power and
the drawing. It does, but the drawing for this, because it's not the animated series style drawing, I thought this voice actually fit pretty well.
He's real lean looking.
Yeah, and this guy's a taller, skinnier guy anyway. So it kind of fit him. I mean, I didn't have a problem with it. I liked it. I do get your point on Phil Lamar, but I like him better as Martian Manhunter personally. He has more of that spooky voice.
I can't argue there.
And I think the last thing we had in movie and TV news is just an announcement. I think this has been out for a little bit, so we're a little late on it. But John Watts, who's been a big part of the Spider-Man trilogy for Marvel Cinematic Universe, was supposed to be directing Fantastic Four, and he ended up exiting that directing chair. So I was worried at first, because this means the Fantastic Four movie is not going to happen or is in shambles. But from what came out, sources said he was having some medical problems and feeling burnt out and just exhausted and getting sick from it. So he just needed time away. He needed to take a break. But
what a poor time after the big revelation and Multiverse of Madness that I won't go into. But
yeah,
what a poor time.
Yeah, and it's all related to how he was burnt out in his health and stuff. But he has put out something saying that he's hopeful to return to MCU again in the future if they'll have him back, because he hated to leave, but he just had no choice at the time. And I'm sure, knowing the way they work, that they're not going to say no. I mean, his Spider-Man stuff was fantastic. So why do away with him? But since we got through that and we were focusing on comics there at the end, let's talk about some comic news. And unfortunately, we've got a lot of sad comic news right here. So let's start off with Neil Adams, legendary comic artist, passed away at 80 years old due to complications from sepsis. Man, he drew so much great stuff. I will admit, my favorite thing he ever drew was he drew the introduction for Havoc in the 60s X-Men book. So where he's running forward and it says enter the man called Havoc, and you see everybody inside of like a faded out version of his body and stuff. I was like, man,
that is such a cool cover.
It is
great.
A
lot of those iconic Batman covers from your childhood and just before.
Yeah.
Him.
I mean, some of the other stuff he did too. Superman versus Muhammad Ali.
I have that.
He drew the Kree Skrull War, the hard traveling heroes, Green Lantern, Green Arrow, and especially the issue where you find out Speedy's a junkie and been shooting up. I mean, that was all his artwork. So I hated to see him. Yeah. And we should also mention some of the characters he co-created. He's responsible for Ra's al Ghul, Man Bat, John Stewart, Green Lantern we were just talking about, Mockingbird and Sauron from X-Men and the Avengers. I mean, and numerous others. That's just off the top of my head.
And he's a class act too. We met him in MegaCon that year. Was it Dragon Con? He was such a.
I thought it was Dragon Con, but it may have been MegaCon.
Yeah, I think it was Dragon Con actually. I want to say that's when my ex-wife tried to burn our house down, but still.
Yeah. I think that's where he was.
He was a sweetheart of a fella and just very hospitable. It was, man, it's a shame.
Yeah, and unfortunately, he was not the only comic book artist we lost, as well as the other one. Now this one was at MegaCon because he was always there, because I think he lived in the Orlando area, and I never got up to his booth to actually get an autograph because there was always so many people there.
It was a ridiculous line every year.
Yeah, but George Perez passed away on May 6th after a battle with pancreatic cancer. Came out, I think, about a year ago now, and announced that he had it and he wasn't going to be taking any more medicine and stuff for it because they'd already said it's terminal. So it's either prolong and be in misery or take the 6 months to a year that they gave him to live and just, not have to take all that medication and stuff too. And that was the route he chose. Now it's kind of it was really weird timing because again, it's close to a year, which they totally had 6 months to a year, but the issue of Avengers that just came out like 2 or 3 weeks ago, Avengers number 55, actually had a tribute to him as the last page, and he hadn't passed away or anything yet. They just put it in there because they had already set it up. It's actually a page he drew from an old Avengers book, and they just changed it to say, instead of them holding a glass up to all their fallen comrades, it just says, hey, George Perez, once an Avenger, always Avenger, and it took all the word bubbles and stuff out. But they wanted to do that for him to honor him close to that 1 year mark of him saying, hey, you've only got 6 months to a year to live. And then like 2 or 3 weeks later, he was, passed away, which was really weird. Kind of like the Ultimate Warrior thing where he goes in the ring and talks that night, and he's gone the next day. I mean,
his promo was such foreshadowing, and this is as well. It's just incredibly sad.
I had not even read that issue and seen the tribute until after he passed, and I saw somebody post online. I was like, shoot, I got that book. I went back there and flipped through, and I was like, oh, that is in there. It's the last page.
Yeah.
There was they also have DC. It was doing a tribute, and they started their tribute a while back too. And Dan Jurgens did the layout for it, which famous Superman artist there. But he had Jim Lee, Todd McFarlane, Alex Ross, and all these other people draw different characters inside of this layout he did. And they just finished that up within the last few months or whatever. And they're saying now they were waiting until something happened before they ran it, but it's going to run in every title in June. But he created so many characters for DC. I didn't realize how many he did, but he was Teen Titans, he drew Crisis on Infinite Earth. So, I mean, that right there was drawing every DC character you had.
Teen Titans versus the X-Men.
Yeah, Avengers versus Justice League. He drew that cover for it that had every member of the Justice League and Avengers up to that point in time. I hate to see him go, but at least he's not suffering. I said he announced over a year ago he had this and was suffering from it. And since we mentioned MegaCon, because I thought he lived in that Orlando area, his memorial service is going to be held at Orlando MegaCon. There's more details to come about that, but they're saying that one of the nights there, I think the Saturday night that they're there, they're going to have his memorial service, and it's open for anyone to attend. You will not be able to stand in that place. I mean, that's already a
Uh,
comic book mecca. He was so huge because he was from that kind of area. You won't be able to stand in that place.
and he was so well liked amongst the not only the comic community, but his peers. He was so well liked
Yeah,
and respected.
everybody thought he was just
Uh,
such a super nice guy.
you never seen him without a smile on his face. Like a lot of some, you can kind of catch some of the creators at their booth, and they got that look upon them like, shit, I'm just doing this. I need some fast cash.
Or
You
they're
never got
exhausted.
that
They're like,
vibe. Yeah,
they look stressed. Like I gotta get back to drawing, and not you people standing here.
shoot fly, shoot fly.
Yeah, so we hate to see losing both of them, but Neil Adams, George Perez, two of the all-time greats, and unfortunately we lost both of them pretty much almost back to back in the span of a couple weeks there. So with that actually kind of leads us into our topic for tonight, which we were going to talk about the Free Comic Book Day and all the books that came out. So I think we'll jump into the books in a minute, but let's give a little bit of history of Free Comic Book Day. And I didn't realize how long it had been going on. I know it's been a while, and we've always gone to it and done stuff, but it's an annual promotional event sponsored by a combined effort of pretty much all the North American comic book industry publishers. But it started in 2002, so this is the 20-year anniversary, and I did not even realize that until after I was looking this information up. But usually it's held the first weekend of May. A couple of times it's been moved out, like 2004 was set to July, and then it was in August of last year just because of shipping issues getting the books out there. But this is one of the few promotional events that did not shut down for COVID-19. They actually still had it in 2020, but instead of having the physical event where you go get the free comics, they started, hey,
Digital.
we'll send them out digitally, or if you buy the comics you in your local comic store gets them, we'll send them a few at a time. So over the course of I think it was from May until September, they sent 2 books once a month out, and those were given out. But the ultimate goal of it is, hey, how do we bring new readers into a local comic book store? And how do we get new readers involved in the comic book industry? It started with that and with Diamond promoting it and getting everything together and coordinating it, which now Diamond is not the only distributor anymore. We know everybody's pretty much gone their own way. So, but they're still doing a lot of the coordination of it. But over 2,000 stores are involved. They give away millions of copies of whatever being published. And a lot of this stuff is either short stories or informational stories to tell you about the characters or to get you engaged in, hey, what's the new events that are coming out? Because if I'm a new reader, let's start with a new event. Don't take me backwards into all this other stuff.
That's the key thing right there. It's to get the new reader in there and to try to. It's like on certain titles, it's not just reprinted stuff that they give you a few panels of to get you interested. It's a teaser for something upcoming.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
thanks to our sponsor, The Zone, I have a stack here that he give me everything a week in advance. So I had the luxury of going through and getting things together for the review. And I take a handful of these titles and give my fiance. She's not a comic book reader at all, but I give her a handful. It's like, hey, just check these out, see what you think. And she was pissed because she got to the Spider-Man and Venom one. And she really got into Venom. For whatever reason, she connected there. And she's like, I said, man, because there's only a few pages. And I was like, well, what do they do next? I said, that's it. That's the key. That's what they're hoping. They hope
Exactly.
you should come to the store and buy some issues or buy back issues or whatever.
And not only did they do the free comic book giveaway, but a lot of the stores, especially because you got to go to a local store to get these, they started doing sales events that weekend, off of this much off the action figure, this much off of back issues. These back issues are 25 cents or put 50-cent books out there. People will buy the crap out of that stuff when they come in there and they get hooked on it.
I know The Zone, they had massive sales. It was what was it? $1 books for 50 cents, $3 books for $1, $5 books for $2. I mean, it was just a huge sale. And if you were wanting to catch up on some things, that's the time to do it. Go capitalize.
Dude, I went to the stores mostly just to get the issues because where I'm living at, I didn't have the chance to go to the Zone and get them. He sent me a link to try and get some online and all, but I was having trouble with it. So I was like, I'll just go to the store and get a few. It was so, I will say the store, I go to the comic book store here once every 2 weeks just to look around and see if there's anything that catches my eye or something that I didn't order, because I mostly order mine and get them delivered because I travel so much. And I was like, okay, I'll just pop in the store every couple weeks. When I went to the store to pick up some, it was packed. And I will say this, I had to go to 2 different comic stores to get more than just a couple issues, because there are those cretins out there who go to Free Comic Book Day, and it's like, okay, you're supposed to take a copy of everything there. It's free or whatever. They will snatch up full handfuls of just one book or something and take all the copies, and then they'll try to scalp them on eBay for $1 a piece. I'm like, dude, it was free.
Yeah.
But they were having such trouble with that because they were having so many people coming in. Like the first store I went in, you could only pick out 2 of the books, and they had a stand sitting there showing you what all the books were, and they're like, pick out 2, and you'll get those 2 for every person. Like, so I got 2, and my son got 2. Then we went to another comic book store, and they're like, take 5 books or whatever. And then they were having to limit it because people were taking it. But the first store I went to was pretty packed, but it's usually a little bit busy, but not like it was that day. I mean, it was, you were standing in line for a little bit to pay and stuff, just if you bought anything. The second store I went to, the line was out the door. I had to stand in the doorway for a couple minutes just to get inside to go to the table where all the books were. Yeah, and it's a smaller, it's a smaller shop physically, and I think they're a little bit smaller than, because the first store I went to is actually, there's 2 locations. They have 2 different stores. I only go to one because it's closer. The other's in downtown, and I just don't want to go park and walk to it. But I go to their second location. But I mean, and it's a bigger store, but man, that second one was just, there was people out the door, and I was like, I've been in here before, and there's usually nobody here at all but me.
Yeah.
And the person working.
Well, see, the thing about that limiting it like that, one or two things happens. Either one, you really want to be there first to get the ones you wanted.
We did that.
Or 2, if you get there, say midday, and all the mainstream titles are gone, you've got nothing but indies. It's great for those indie guys because then, you know, some books that you might not have picked up before, you'll pick up just, you know, they're free, why not? And give it a spin, and, you know, you might find something that you really like for the independent creator, which is, you know, something that in the last few years of some of the art stories of independent stuff has become better than, you know, your mainstream things.
Yeah, and actually, the first store we went to, and like I said, we go there several times, and the guy who works the store, or there's a couple of them because they own multiple stores, but one of the guys who works in there actually does artwork on the side, just like prints and stuff. He's like, it's like, I love the comics and the horror movies and stuff. He said, I don't have enough time to do a full book, so I just do print drawings and stuff. And you can buy them from him when you're there, but like they had a whole table set up where he was signing stuff that he was selling, and then they had a lot of stuff there for like, there's like 3 or 4 conventions coming up, like an anime con, and there's a convention coming in September here where they're reuniting the cast of Batman the animated series and stuff, and they were giving away all this stuff for that, like, hey, here, this is coming up. So they had all that stuff. So they had a ton of stuff going on in there. It amazed me how many people were at this thing. I'm like, I go to those, and they're always busier during that time, but it seemed much more so than the last couple of years. It haven't. Maybe that's the reason it looks so much bigger, because we haven't been physically there the last 2 years for it.
Well, yeah, you got to figure the world shut down for 2 years. Like literally, our sales department just went back to work for the first time in 2 years. Our entire sales department had not been physically on site for 2 years. They worked from home. So, and now, you know, a lot of the mandates are loosening up, they're letting up. The fear is starting to die down. People are realizing, okay, while this is very serious, flu is just as terrifying. We don't shut down for the flu.
Yeah.
Get out and live with it. And people are starting to get out and live again for the first time. So, hey, it's great. You get people back in the comic book store, and it's definitely great for them.
Yeah, and since you brought that up, that's the last thing I had from the history, and it's kind of important. So this has become such an event over the last 20 years that now it's considered a part of the official Children's Book Week events that they do. So you actually have this being promoted not only in comic book stores, but participating schools are taking part in it. They're giving them out. They're having them in their book fairs and stuff. And then I've seen some toy retailers too that have like physical stores, not your online ones, but like your vintage toy stores and stuff. Because one of those is right next door to one of these comic shops I went to. They're getting them as well. I mean, anybody who buys anything from Diamond or who can get their hands on these, or the children's book stuff, where if maybe it's a library, because I've seen some libraries involved as well as schools, but they're taking this stuff to even a larger audience that way. And it's great to get kids involved in reading, because like my son loves to read comics just because he picked it up from me. But you know, for those kids who don't, or who don't like to read, maybe this is their entry to it, because it's a little bit less on the reading and more pictures, and then you can get into the reading. But it helps also the comic industry, right? Because the industry, it's printed medium is a hard industry in today's world with electronics and computers and stuff. And even though you can get the comics digitally, even though you can get comics digitally, it's still considered a printed medium, and it still isn't as popular as it was like in the 90s. So how do
No.
you get more interest into it? So I really enjoy stuff like the Free Comic Book Day and picking up stuff I normally wouldn't. Now, again, all I got was like 7 titles because I was limited to 5 and 2. And what my son wanted was really for him and his sec was a repeat of 2 of the ones I already got. So I was like, all right, so I don't have 9. I've just got 7. But
So that's what you got to coordinate beforehand. Look here, son. I'm
I
gonna grab
tried that.
these.
I tried
You
that, but
grab
he didn't
these
go
and we'll
for it.
swap. Because he hasn't learned how to share like we had to do, or you had to swap comics and cards and things of this nature to, fully build.
And to be fair, we had so much planned for that day that we weren't sure. I didn't know we were going to the second comic book store. We went to the first one because I was like, all right, we got to be up at this time. The store opens at 11. We need to be there right at 11. Get that because we got to get back over here because the movie was we were going to see Doctor Strange. That starts at 2:45. It's a 20-minute drive roughly from my house to that area just because of traffic. And you got to get on the interstate. It's not far. It's 15 miles, but there's no easy way to get there. So you're going in traffic. So I was like, we got to get all this stuff done. And we got through at the comic book store so much earlier. I was like, oh, I got time. We're going to go around to the other one because it's not far from the theater. But I did end up picking up like 7 books, and I know you had all of them. So how about I tell you what 7 I got, and then whichever ones that because I know there's many as there was, you might not have been able to read them all in that time frame because
I'll be
I struggled to
honest.
get through these 7, even though they're short. I was like, crap, because my work week has been crazy. I was like, oh crap, last night I was like, I got 4 of those left to read, so I read them real quickly before I went to bed. But let's go. I've got them sitting here, so let's see what I've got, and then we'll see what you looked at, and we can compare and discuss those. But I got I ended up with Dark Crisis from DC.
I got.
Avengers, Eternals, X-Men, Judgment Day. Yep. Spider-Man and Venom from Marvel. All right, we're on the same page. I got the Street Fighter Masters. Now, this was the easiest read, and this was the last one I read last night because there's actually no words in it. It's all it's a silent story. So this is the one I fell asleep reading and then woke up and finished because I didn't have to read anything. I just fell asleep looking at the page. I did pick up the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. This was actually a pretty good one.
That was actually very good.
What else did I grab? Doctor Who, which is about the fugitive doctor. And then Valiant 2022 preview book. I will say, for sake of time, there's not much to talk about. The Street Fighter is just a Blanca story. It was just a flip through and nice artwork. It was just, and it was a neat little, hey, it's a silent story, but there wasn't much substance to it other than that.
No. It's cool. I mean, because you got to see the human side of Blanca and what he, Harvard still or whatever. The first thing I did when I got mine was like, I had everything, and God bless Kev, he's like, here. And I was like overwhelmed when I come home. So the first thing I did is I kind of I set my stacks down and I broke them down into stacks. So I put my mainstream together. Then I got you semi-mainstream, like your Valiant and your Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
Then, there's a couple of titles that were horror related, actually fairly adult horror that looked pretty cool. Then I took, these 4 titles here: Equilibrium, Promos, Barbaric, and the Electric Black. All of these had some really, really cool art to me. And for independent books, they just looked to be next level. Then, like your Street Fighter and that fell into my stack with I guess your mainstream, like Stranger Things, Walking Dead, Doctor Who, Buffy, Red Sonja, Street Fighter. And then, you got a whole section that's dedicated to children, young children. It was that was the biggest stack. And then you had your diversity titles. Marvel did voices.
I didn't get to pick that one up. I wanted to grab that one, but I did not.
DC done a book called Galaxy.
I don't remember seeing that one.
Well, yeah. It's basically about this alien that is a female. She comes to Earth and poses as a male. And I'm guessing she's in love. What brief story you get in there? She's in love with her best friend, which is another male. But I mean, it's kind of adult oriented because he actually calls, when he sees her in her true form at a party, he's all enamored with her, and she's there with her best friend, which is another female, other best friend, which is a female, and apparently lesbian. And he's all drawn to her, but she don't want to say she's actually that guy.
Yeah.
And then he's like talking shit about
That's
the guy calling him a pussy. So I mean, they went that route there. Then you got enemies, and I won't always be like this. So you had your diversity line there and then you had just like this stack here of just really cool independent books. I mean, that was a great deal. If you were an independent creator, this was the time. There were some pretty cool covers to some of this stuff.
Yeah, I saw a lot of them. I just again, we were limited to what we grabbed, so I didn't grab any of them. The only thing that we debated on, or that my son debated on, because he really wanted to grab the Sonic one because he loved the Sonic movies and stuff, but it was like, I want this. I want the Ninja Turtles in this one more, and I think he ended up with Ninja Turtles and Dark Crisis.
Okay.
But yeah,
the Ninja Turtles was really cool.
The Ninja Turtles, because when I first started reading it, I was like, why are they calling them by their own name with the weapons they have and stuff? And then you realize after you read it's like, because you get Jenica, which is the new fifth turtle or whatever. Then I was like, what is going on? You realize, oh, you're in a different dimension or something. You're in a multiverse world. Because then they go back and show you the original story, and they basically took that original story from the old school Ninja Turtles and rewrote it almost word for word, except for what needed to change. Like, oh, this person has this weapon. I was like, that's actually really neat now that I read the two of them back, because I was so confused until the last page of the first story.
Yeah. Well, they all had that last Ronin look to them and vibe, which looked really cool. Does she typically always look Frankensteinish in the other books? I
don't know. I honestly don't buy a lot of Ninja Turtle books.
She had that Frankenstein look with the electric eyes and everything, and I was like, this is kind of cool. It's like a Watcher vibe Ninja Turtle deal. I mean,
yeah, I love how they showed the original book and then how it compared to those scenes compared to the original book scenes.
It's enough to make me as a fan, say, hey, I might want to pick up, 6 issues of this, give it a chance to see where it goes, which is the whole goal of Comic Book Day. I mean, I want to hope something piques your interest. And you pick up 7 titles like you guys did. If only one of them piques your interest, it gets you back. That's what the goal is, and that's great. I'm a huge fan of it. My favorite of all of them, personally, was the Spider-Man Venom book.
That one was pretty good. I like how that's going, and it looks like it's setting up what they're doing now with Amazing Spider-Man. I'm a little lost on what's going on in Venom just because I don't read it, but it was easy to read and understand. That story is just like, okay, what is this? How does this relate to what's going on in the books right now?
The only thing I worry about with Venom, I think there's too many symbiotes. You can take away what makes one special by being too many. And to me, with Venom right now, I mean, I get that you see, because I didn't get to read the King in Black. That's one I want to go back and read is, the absolute carnage into King in Black and all that stuff. I missed a lot of that. So I do want to go back into that. So, but I just feel like I get that you're trying to make Eddie Brock the null of, the symbiotes right now, and his actual symbiotes with Dylan and his son, but I'm not real big on the symbiotes being the Captain Marvel type deal with the young kid. There's a version of Carnage now with young Harry Osborn's son.
Yeah.
Little Normie. I was my biggest pull away of all of it is I really, really liked the Ben Reilly and Madeline Pryor deal at the very end.
That was the best part of the entire thing.
Like them two could really, and it makes you think, is she why he hasn't been able to see his face, really? Has she been messing with his head? Or is she promising to fix him?
I would assume it'd be the promising to fix him and I still haven't read Amazing Spider-Man 93, which showed how he fully got to that point. But everything up to that point, the Beyond Corporation was screwing with his head, and they were erasing his memories, and they were erasing more than he wanted to let go of. So he kind of was trying to keep hold of it, and I think it just screwed up his whole head regardless.
But was she controlling them as a puppet master?
I don't know. I don't think so, because they just recently resurrected her in the Hellions book and stuff. So I don't think they'll go that route. But it'll be interesting to see. I will say, but since we're talking about her and talking about that was my second favorite. I got to admit, the Avengers, X-Men, Eternals, Judgment Day stuff. That one caught my attention a lot because while I'm not a huge fan of where the X-Men are right now with the resurrections and the Krakoa and stuff, this is actually a pretty good story. If you wanted to take them backwards to what they used to be, or to try and say, okay, let's just do something different, because we brought in all these groups. We've tried to put on screen Inhumans and Eternals, and we've kind of failed because they're really not X-Men, and people just want to see the X-Men. This was our X-Men light groups. So now they're saying, okay, what's this deal about the Eternals and dealing with the X-Men and getting into a fight with them? And everything they see is excess deviation, which they're programmed as Eternals. Is in their genetic makeup to kill deviance, and especially excess deviation. So they're starting. To me, this is pretty interesting because for a long time, mutants, yes, were deviations of the humans, but they never saw them as excess deviation until they started being able to resurrect themselves. Now they're excess deviation because they've gone past where they should be.
And this will probably do a fine job of like what you were saying, is making people maybe go back and watch Eternals where they hadn't watched it before and relate to them a little more. I really like the throwback to Odin and the Avengers BC or whatever it is. That was pretty cool.
And that actually got
the hive mind monkeys and everything. That was pretty cool.
And if you're interested in that stuff from the Avengers 1 million BC, that actually was I just did my May pre-order books, which come out in July. They are kicking off an Avengers 1 million BC book to kind of delve into those origins more. First issue hits July.
Okay, that's pretty cool. The one that's kind of struck me a little odd was the Blade Bloodline crammed in the middle of this.
Yeah, that was kind of a weird placement, but I kind of want to know more about it, because that's supposed to be his daughter or whatever. But
yeah, it's not that it didn't interest to me. It was just like you had all this with the Eternals and the X-Men.
Yeah, it just came out of nowhere.
And then that's like in the middle, she's battling some shit with a GameCube controller, not even a real, it's kind of PlayStation, I guess. But she does that in the middle, then you go right back into X-Men, with a pretty horrific tale there, The scene where Captain America's shield gets wrapped around his head, that is like, ooh.
Yeah.
It's brutal.
It makes you realize, though, that story could have been so much more when they did that, and they just kind of, we really don't want to fight because we're not really enemies, but if they really were, that could be pretty rough.
Yeah, it could go really bad on both sides. The one panel I didn't really agree with, and I would call bullshit, is the Captain Marvel just easy snapping Rogue's neck.
Yeah,
I'm willing to debate that one to a long death.
Yeah, they're just trying to push the Captain Marvel character more to me, and could she win in a prolonged fight against Rogue? Probably eventually, but that quickly, no.
What would you say? I mean, just glancing at what you did get to see, at what Marvel had to offer versus what DC had to offer out of the two big publishers. Did Marvel not look to have the far better showing?
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest with you. Looking through the Dark Crisis, all it is trying to build up to this whole changing of the guard, next generation that they're trying to push, which they've already done in the 90s, and it already failed. And they said, "Hey, we failed. Bring everybody back." Now you're doing it again. I'm not. And here's my problem with it: is you look through it, and then you look through even the Death of Justice League book that they just did. And I haven't read it yet, but you take your main heroes and you have them killed off to start this Dark Crisis because they're fighting all the major bad guys, right? Necron's being controlled by the darkness. Darkseid is, they're probably going to lose at some point.
Yeah.
But you kill off your main characters, but then you didn't even point out. And I'm not dissing him because I like John Stewart, but if you were going to do that and say, well, let's remove the old guard generation, why would you have not kept John Stewart and killed off Hal Jordan because he's much older?
Well, because Hal's death, you fought so hard to bring him back 20 years ago, which is crazy now to say that was 20 years ago they brought him back, but after being dead or whatnot. But I don't really. I know DC's publishing company, they're saying they're wanting to get to a less convoluted style and a more dedicated. But what we're seeing right there, it's not saying it, and I hope that their future that they want to stick with is not all John Kent and this new generation of
Yeah,
heroes because
and I have no problem with having that new generation in books because I buy the Superman Son of Kal-El book, but I buy it to read him there because I still want to see Clark in
I
Action
want him as
Comics.
a separate character. I still
Yeah,
want Clark Kent. I still want Bruce Wayne. If you
I still
want to
want my
throw that,
legacies.
yes, I mean, I'm willing to buy a John Stewart book. However, I don't want the rest of the Green Lantern Corps killed off. I don't want
Yeah,
Hal killed again unless he's going to become Parallax, which was badass. Now, if you want to give me a book with Parallax, Asbat, and Cyborg Superman, I'll read it all day, especially if Dan Jurgens draws it. But,
yeah.
I mean,
I mean, I'm fine with having that stuff, but you don't have to kill off your old guard just to bring in a new guard.
no.
They can both
You
exist at the same
create
time.
that was my thing when they first brought Miles Morales on, and I was a huge Miles Morales fan. I actually loved Bendis's run on that there. You didn't have to kill Peter Parker off to do it. Did it mean a lot when he died the way he died? Yes, and it made it even cooler when he finally come back. But you didn't have to kill him to introduce. I mean, because it's a very interesting concept. Why wouldn't Norman Osborn have more than one spider? I mean,
Yeah,
especially in the Ultimate Universe where it was tested upon purposely as opposed to just accidentally falling in the 60s. But
right.
some you didn't have to kill off one for the other. And I think sometimes the publishers lose sight of that and think, well, we just take their toy away, they'll accept this new one. No, they
Yeah,
rebel at that point.
that
Give
and
us a choice.
that's what it feels like with the Dark Crisis stuff DC. Because if I look over at Marvel, and yes, Marvel's terrible about ending the title and rebooting the title, but it still be the same people. But what they're doing right now with Captain America, you've got two Captain America books. One's got Sam Wilson in it as Captain America, and one's got Steve Rogers. They can both exist at the same time. Eventually, cross over with each other if they need to, but exist separately as well. I don't need to have every book have the same character just because it's a Captain America book and there's two of them, so it's got to be the same one in each one. I prefer some characters over others. I prefer Hal Jordan over John Stewart. But if you're going to give me a Hal Jordan book, like a few years ago when you had Green Lantern, and it was Simon Baz and Jessica Cruz were the main characters, and then you had Hal Jordan in the Green Lantern Corps, and it was Hal, John, Kyle, and
Well,
Guy.
you had a choice between them at that point, and I liked the Baz and Cruz
Jessica, yeah,
storyline. Yeah, that was
yeah,
actually very interesting. Like how she had somehow stumbled into being a Green Lantern, and she was more fearful than any damn thing. And then he was persecuted. I mean, it was a great story. I mean, it was very interesting. It was,
and I like
and
seeing
you
them in their
had
own stuff.
yes, you had new characters that were interesting. They wasn't made to be diverse just to be diverse. It was how the story unfolded, which is always great when you see it just organically go. But you
It,
don't have to show the others in the damn dirt to do it.
and that's my problem with some of that. And I like the character from Far Sector and the new Green Lantern. They got that Joe Mullen or however you're supposed to say her last name. She's not a bad character, but when you read the Green Lantern comic that just ended at like issue 13 or whatever it was, half the story was about John because he was off in some other sector of space. The other half was where the Guardians and the battery had been destroyed and everybody lost their power rings except for her and Hal because Hal's was made from his own willpower and hers
Yeah,
was
the
made
last I
differently.
already had.
So, but at some point, near the end of that story, this rogue Guardian tries to wipe out everybody and just kill all life. And she's the one leading the charge, even though Hal's there. And I'm like, why? Yeah, they both got a ring. Hers is made differently, so hers is still working, but he made his own out of his own willpower. But you're going to tell me that she's the better Green Lantern?
No,
She's the one you're going to stick in the Justice League next?
that's what made him special. He was the only Green Lantern to forge his ring from his own willpower. That's
Exactly.
what made him so much the greatest Green Lantern, so to speak.
And if you're not
And
going to pull John, because if you're not going to pull John into the JLA or Guy or Kyle, there needs to be Simon or Jessica. She's this new character's so new, but she's going to be in the next Justice League title as their Green Lantern. I'm like, maybe as a training thing, but they're saying no, she's an integral character to it. She's going to be like there's one of their best characters. I was like, how?
well,
How is she any better than any of the characters you've had?
You're what, 5, 6 years in the Jessica at this point.
Yeah.
So why would you not continue to build upon her and her legacy? I think she's a damn Sinestro liner now, correct?
She was in the current Green Lantern book because
Okay,
the power rings were destroyed.
I've seen some art
all,
recently
all,
where
all the
she
green
was.
rings and the battery and stuff were destroyed, but now in the Death of the Justice League, all the promotional art for that, and even in Dark Crisis, she's back in her Green Lantern uniform. So, and I've got this Green Lantern run just ended at like issue 13, and I think they bring everything back, like the power battery and everybody else's rings back at the end of it, but I haven't read it yet. I'm like 2 issues behind. I'm on number 12, so I haven't finished it off to see how that happens. So I can't really speak to it, but I'm pretty sure they all get their rings back.
Either way, the DC had a pretty poor showing because they had Dark Crisis, they had the Super Animals book
And I get that for
with
kids, so that's
Crypto,
great. And they got a movie coming out for that.
and then they had the diversity book I spoke about earlier, the Galaxy, the Prettiest Star. And for those that are interested, the artwork's not bad. The story wasn't terrible. It's just it felt they just screamed transgender to scream transgender.
I will say though, out of what I grabbed, the Valiant book was the most disappointing. And I like Valiant. And I love the artwork
like
of this.
reprinted shit.
No, this is new stories for new books that are coming out, but it's like, well, I guess it's reprinted from the new books that are coming. So it's like little previews of each book that they've got coming, but they made the preview so short, and I'm like, whoa, I got 2 pages. For Archer and Armstrong, I got 4 pages total. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, that didn't give me anything to make me want to go read Archer and Armstrong.
Okay, I say, yeah, this is not the book I was thinking of at the time. They had to reprint it. That was Red Sonja, I believe. But yeah, this is exactly what you're talking about. You literally have 2 pages for about everything.
The only
They try to cram too much in it. Why not have 2?
yeah,
I mean, it couldn't have cost that damn much.
like the Bloodshot little story was only like 4 to 5 pages, but you know what? That one was actually decent and kind of made you like, oh, maybe I'd pick that up and read it. The Ninjak, which is another character I like, there was nothing to his Exo Manowar. I like that character, and there was nothing more than a poster in there. Like, why didn't
exactly? Well, you have 4 pages.
Yeah, but there's no story. It's just him fighting, and it's like, okay, well, why is he fighting? What's the story? At least the Bloodshot one, it's like, hey, this guy's got all these mechanical parts. Over time, he's been, rebuilt by the army and stuff, and they kept sending him back out to war, and that's kind of what Bloodshot is. So he's like, are we the same? So you got a little bit of a dichotomy going on there.
This one character in the Book of Shadows does look pretty cool cosmetically.
The Shadow Man figure, yeah,
yeah,
that one looks cool. But there's nothing to tell you what's going on.
Yeah, there's not enough substance there
and
at all to say, hey, you know what? I want to start picking this up.
And that's what made it disappointing to me because there was no substance to the Valiant stuff, and I like Valiant. I was like, man, you could have done so much more. You just didn't give me enough.
I those horror books, the Winchester Mystery House and the Bones Mythos. This Bones Mythos, it was creepy. Like it had some, and it was very adult horror. So if you're an adult horror fan like myself, it kind of has this Insidious vibe to it. Like I'm not quite sure what the the creature did, but like it takes over the person, and it's like it was pretty damn cool. And it was out by can't say who the publisher is. Image. Image put that out.
Okay.
Wow, because I didn't think Image had put much of anything out, so I stand corrected. And the other one was Source Point Press, Winchester Mystery House. It was a pretty cool Hotel California vibe deal. Like you get in, but you can't get out. It was.
Yeah, I didn't get to see those. I saw
both of those.
I saw those on the table when I went in. I just didn't get to grab them.
Well, you know what? If I were just strolling past, I would have never picked these up. Because, I mean, just looking at them, their covers, I mean, there's nothing that just bowls you over about either one of those.
Yeah.
But, when I got home and I started thumbing through some things, those were actually some pretty cool little interesting books there. I was like, you know what, I would be interested into picking those up occasionally.
So did you have any others? Because I'm out of ones that I could review with you. So did you have any others you wanted to touch on? Or
Well, like I said, I have my mainstream stack that's, Dark Horse done a lot of those, like The Doctor and, Stranger Things. You had a Walking Dead tie-in, Red Sonja. The Black Caravan, the Electric Black, that looks really interesting. There's some great art on the inside of it. Because I'm one of those, I'm an art person. So if you can pull me in with the art, I can, even if the writing's not there, I can read it. To where you can have the best writing in the world, and if the art's not good, if you got a botchalo on your title, I don't give a damn if you're Alan Moore. I'm not reading it. Barbaric was another one that was pretty cool. It was put out by Vault. I said a lot of these are, independents I've never heard of. This is AWA Upshot, the Primos. They were some really, really cool art.
I see a lot of those publishers like AWA and the Vault and stuff when I order my books, because I'm ordering on it's an Excel spreadsheet, but it's basically pulled out of previews, and I'll look back and forth. So I recognize those names like Scout Comics, Titan Comics, AWA, Vault Comics. I just don't buy anything from them.
These three I just showed right now, they've done a very impressive, especially this right here. You got a full-size comic here. The entire thing, it wasn't just like 4 pages and then they jump to another title. Oh, I'm sorry, this Equilibrium by Comic House had a very scroll type looking character on the front, but it had some cool art on the inside. You had, some very superhero-ish looking figures on the inside, so it wasn't just, one character, so to speak. I mean, you got a whole universe in that one book there. And I mean, after that, it's kind of, you get your typical what you expect. There's a lot of Japanese imports and random odd magna and things of this nature. I'd probably give this stack I got right here a solid B, and then this over here probably be a fairly great. I give a little bit of credit to the Doctor Who, with the Fugitive Doctor.
Yeah,
that was a pretty interesting.
I forgot I had that. We didn't talk about it. That was actually pretty good one.
Yeah, I enjoyed that one there. Like I said, I haven't been watching Doctor Who like I used to religiously, so I didn't know who the Fugitive Doctor was until I read this, and then I went back and Googled, and it's like, oh, okay, that's pretty damn cool.
That, and I like the fact that it ties into it tries to create a tie into the original, the first Doctor, which is who we recognize as the original, right? So even though the Doctor has supposedly lived multiple regeneration cycles, because it's the first of the actual Time Lords and the only true Time Lord, truthfully, but that was a good way to tie them together. I enjoyed that little story. It was a quick read. I mean, it was a short story, but it tied some stuff together, and it's like, okay, this was actually enjoyable to sit there and read. It's not going to make me run out and buy Doctor Who comics, I don't think, but it was like, okay, if I had this and it was free, I'd read it.
Well, I mean, it had a good and cool story and some pretty good art. So, I mean, those combinations have pulled me in, and
yeah,
it was enjoyable to read. I mean, would I probably spend $3 to $4 every month to go to buy Doctor Who? You'd have to be very damn consistent for me to change my thought on that. But for the most part, I would read it digitally. If you put it out kind of at a reduced rate digitally, I'd read that.
Yeah, same here. I think with that though, since that's pretty much all the reviewing we had, why don't we jump ahead to our nerd out? Because this is the section of the show for anybody who hadn't been here where we ask each other random questions. It's going to be about the topic of the day, usually, or whatever we're discussing, and this is where we have to put each other on the spot and figure out, oh, how am I going to answer that off the top of my head? Because I have no prepared answer because I didn't even know what the question was. And the reason I wanted to jump ahead to it a little bit quicker than we usually do is I actually had 2 questions because I think it's a pertinent one to get both of these in this time. But do you want to go first, or do you want me to go and then you go, then I'll go?
The floor is yours, brother.
All right. For anybody who's listening, if you want to talk about any of this or put your, share your thoughts on what we're talking about or give your answers to question, feel free to do so in the comments below. We'd love to hear it. We'd love to chat about it. But with that, let me ask you my first question. And it relates to what you just said. Some of this stuff is not stuff that I would necessarily go out and buy all the time, or there's nothing is short of the Marvel stuff. Nothing caught my attention enough to make me say, "Oh, I'm going to go buy that." Especially when I like the value when I was disappointed in, right? Because it didn't give me enough substance. But was there anything that you were disappointed you didn't get, like a publisher or a book from Free Comic Book Day that would have made you want to go buy? So, I mean, I've got one in particular that I was like, you gave me nothing for this, but this is a really hot book right now. Why didn't I get something to try to draw me in as a new reader? But was there anything out there for you? Okay.
One, why the fuck did Boom Comics not have something Power Ranger related?
That's the one I had. It is
As
so
hot as
hot
that
right
title
now.
is, yes, as hot as that title is right now. I mean, you got a license to print money right there. Why did you not put something out there to grab the reader that you already have it grabbed?
Yeah,
outside of your niche audience.
Because they are expanding so much in that they've got so many miniseries hitting. They've got just telling backstory of how the original Power Rangers came to be, how the morphing grid was first tapped into. They've got all these different one shots they're doing. They're different graphic novels that are from different time periods of Power Rangers, but there was nothing from Boom for that for Free Comic. I don't even know if they even did if Boom did anything for Free Comic Book Day.
I have it. I literally have every title here. I didn't see anything from Boom, unless one of the children's books, and I'm almost positive, like maybe if Sonic or something like that was.
Boom does a lot of horror, but I think they have Buffy and Angel, or at least Angel. Maybe the Buffy one is not theirs, but Angel, I know they print Angel, and I've picked it up a couple times, right? And they actually do a good job with it. I just don't buy
The
it.
Buffy is Boom Studios.
Okay, so they did do something.
That was their title. They chose to go to Buffy 25th anniversary.
And that's fair, but that's not their hottest property. But they don't sell the same volume of those as they do with Power Rangers.
The other one to me is Spawn, Image. Image. The only book I seen was the horror book I talked about a while ago, and I'm assuming that the Walking Dead tie-in was Image.
Yeah.
But you got a really huge Spawn store going right now with this King Spawn and the various spawns. Why would you not have something correlating to that? It's baffling.
And you have so much history there that you can go back and buy like trades and stuff. But like that, you can go back and buy trades for Power Rangers. You could go back and buy individual issues at this point because they're not that far out.
They could have done a 4-page, and that's when they could have got by with it. You could have done a 4-page Todd McFarlane drawn teaser for something.
Oh yeah.
And then a flashback issue to maybe one of the first 5 to 10 issues. And somebody who hadn't been reading Spawn said, "Holy shit, this is interesting.
Yeah.
I need to go back and pick this up."
That's fair.
So that was me. Other than Power Rangers, what was yours?
That was mine. I was like, why did they not have? And I thought Boom didn't have anything. I didn't think about the Buffy until just now. But I was like, where's the Boom stuff? And then I realized, okay, yeah, you said Buffy. I was like, oh, maybe that's theirs. But where's the Power Rangers? That's their hottest title. That's the thing that keeps them on the charts. And I'm not picking on Booms by any means, saying they're not chart toppers or they're not great stuff, but that's their number one seller. And and beyond being a number one seller, it's in the top 20, top 25 usually for all comics. So why was there nothing out there?
That would have been like if Marvel didn't have X-Men, Avengers, Spider-Man, something of those 3 titles out there, and they just chose to go with Blade.
Yeah.
And we're not knocking that character, and I'm not knocking Buffy either. It's 25th anniversary. That's pretty big.
Yeah.
However, that's not your flagship.
Exactly. I mean, so like even for you, you're a huge Ghost Rider fan. If they'd have put a Ghost Rider Marvel comic for Free Comic Book Day, that's the only one, you'd have probably been like, where's Spider-Man? Where's the Avengers? These are the ones that have movies and everything else. Why are they not there?
Well, as a huge Ghost Rider fan, I'd have been delighted. However, that's not what's bringing the people to the dance. And if you're trying to bring in because certain books just have certain audiences. And then you have some books that transcend those niches.
Yeah.
And typically, whatever your flagship title is for your company, it's the one that reaches out to all the audiences. because there's something on in that title that correlates with everyone. So it gets to a lot of people. That's what you want to put out there. That would be like if WWE said, you know what, we've got an hour on the most watched channel on the planet during the most, like say they got an hour during the halftime show or something, for somehow reason. But we're not going to put Raw or SmackDown on there. We're going to put NXT on there.
Yeah.
No. People are going to turn that shit the hell off.
They're going to say, what is this? Where's my stuff? Yeah.
Yes. There you go. So, yeah.
Yeah. So what was your question for this week?
I'm going away from the free comic book day because we beat that horse to death. But I'm going back to something you touched on earlier.
So let me go ahead. So if we're going to step away from that, I'll go ahead and do my second question then, because it does tie to free comic book day. And then we'll go to yours. That way we won't jump.
We'll give you the 2 for 1. We gotta catch up anyways.
So how would you like to see this event expand? Like what would make it even more impactful now? Because we've done it for 20 years of getting the free comics, trying to get people in. What's the next thing to make it more impactful, in your opinion?
I'd like to see trading cards, but I would like to see trading cards return anyways.
That's an interesting. I didn't think about it.
If like at least the major publishers could get on the same page long enough to say, okay, let's do one big splash page, and we'll have a character from each one of our companies. It all if you get every one of them, they come together. Like the old '90s cards where you had typically the 9 cards that form together.
Yeah.
So they can get on the same page and say, okay, we'll, do a big splash thing like this, and if you pick up a title from our thing, you can get one of those cards. I feel like that would draw a lot of interest and make people want to come out and get there to get that.
I can see that, especially if you were going to go back to doing trading card sets, and that would draw you into want to get those.
Trading cards. If you died out with trading cards at this point, you've done it to yourself. Look at Pokemon. Yeah. Look at Magic. All these cards. All these cards are, and like baseball cards still. Baseball cards are like $7 a pack now. It is crazy. I think the cheapest pack I've seen in the last few years was $5.
Jeez.
And I don't know what Magic or Pokemon or whatever they'll go for, but you have your cards that's worth several $1,000s. Like Logan Paul at WrestleMania. He had a damn Pokemon card around his neck that's worth, what, was it $1 million?
Yeah, something like that. It was the most expensive Pokemon card in the world right now.
Yeah. So why would you not be into trading cards at this point? I mean, because apparently the niche is there still. It never died out. Marvel and DC and them just kind of dropped the ball at a certain point.
That's fair. Yeah. Yeah, my thought was, hey, you're already doing free comic books, and it's you're doing those at a cost and a loss, right, to give them away free. So I understand if you couldn't do this part free, even if you had to charge for it. But after the free comic book day, I'd like to see it where it expands to say, hey, let's do an extra size book or a trade of multiple stories or something that, classic stories for a character or something that you think that's, even if it's modern or classic, that makes you think it'll draw the characters in, like a best of Thor or best of Spider-Man. No. Maybe 3 to 5 issues in the book. Maybe it costs $5 to $7, but maybe it's a full, almost like a size of a trade paperback. Say, this is, while comic books are free, this will cost you, $5 to $7, but you're going to get all this story in it. Maybe then it says, hey, I'll go buy other stuff or buy back issues because this was actually cool and I want to see what happened in the past. Because that's
it's exclusive to this day, correct? Like after this day, you can't buy it any longer.
Yeah. Yeah. So it wouldn't be like a full trade, like, hey, here's a trade and it's volume 1 of, X-Men. This is a best of Cyclops story or whatever it is. And you get 5 to 7 issues that were very pertinent to that character. That might draw you into the character or the series enough to go buy back issues. Because what's the worst thing about buying and collecting comics for a comic book store? All the back issues that don't sell. Maybe that sells it for them, that keeps them in business longer and draws new fans in and start buying the new stuff as well.
Do we go full blown back ways and polybag this son of a bitch with a holographic chrome cover?
Sure.
I mean, I dig in for that right here. Just that alone.
Yeah, I mean,
I
you get
still
more.
have some polybagged comics that I've
Yeah,
never opened.
the more you do that, the more
You had to
expensive it
buy
gets. But
two
yeah,
of, yeah. But I mean, if you draw it the interest in, I mean, it's worth it though.
and think about if you could tie that to the movies too. Like, so Doctor Strange dropped the same weekend that Free Comic Book Day was. Do a best of Doctor Strange, have 5 or 7 issues of his old stories in there that were probably more popular ones or people would buy into more. Put that in there, sell it for $5, and hey, now you go see the movie too. And I was like, man, I need to go buy some other stories of his and read them.
That would be cool, but Exiles would have been a great tie-in for that.
Yeah,
Like, say, if you had a trade with the first 6 issues, and then maybe at the tail end of it had 4 to 6 pages of an original story that
yeah.
the original creative team put together. That would be pretty neat.
I think it would help expand what it is and get more people interested in it. But that was just mine. But now go ahead with your question since I interrupted you a minute ago.
No, you're fine. Actually, I really like that. I'm going to go back into what we were discussing earlier with the Freddie Prinze Jr. Promotion deal. Okay, well, we pretty much were in agreement. I got to at least have, 2 major stars to kick this off.
Yeah, I wouldn't introduce them at the same time, but yeah, you're gonna have to
Yeah,
have them in short
however you
succession,
want to
right?
do it. However you want to do it. What 2 stars do you feel like he would need to sign to give him some validity and really some traction to mask the lack of talent with the rest of the roster?
Man, that's hard because you got to have people who can cover the talent loss. I mean, if you're just saying who's 2 massive names, and and say you're using the union and the guild, the Screen Actors Guild, and everything else, well, the easy answer is The Rock, right? Because that's one of them because he's already in Screen Actors Guild. But I don't know, man. That's hard because you got to cover the lack of potential ability if you got newer people who are coming from the independents or who weren't in the big 2 or Man, I don't know. That's hard. I don't know. Trying to think of people who can cover the skills of it. Current modern day wrestling right now. The only 2 people I can think of skills wise, I think would cover that would probably be CM Punk and AJ Styles.
Ooh,
They could carry it based only on their skills, right?
yeah.
And there's a couple others I think are close to that, like maybe a Finn Balor or Seth Rollins, but I don't see them carrying everybody. I could see those 2 carrying anybody. Daniel Bryan probably could as well.
Match wise, yes. To me, I don't think they're needle movers enough to get done what needs to be done, and that's what they're going
That's
to need.
fair.
I don't think you're going to get people that's you put up 5-star matches every week. And let's face it, let's be honest. If you look at AEW's roster, they got guys that can put out 5-star matches every damn night. You got your Daniel Bryan's, you got your CM Punk. When CM Punk went there, it was huge, but it did not move that needle like you thought it would.
No, and
Because it was
nobody
probably about
has.
3 years. It was 3 years too late, honestly. Daniel Bryan going there was huge, but I mean, and AEW is just great talent. So I'm not even gonna put them there. I would love to see a Britt Baker go over because she is probably, to me, one of the best female wrestlers in the business today. She's just not mainstream. You're going to need mainstream. So you would need an ambassador along the lines of a Hulk Hogan or a Stone Cold. Beyond those 2, unless you got The Rock. And you would probably do a better chance of getting The Rock than either one of those 2 at this point. Ric Flair, you'd waste your time with. He's just, he's actually sad at this point. Wrestler wise, I'm thinking you would have to have a Roman Reigns and a Becky Lynch.
That's fair.
Just because Roman, he has it right now. He's I'm not gonna say he's bell to bell the best, but he's got it right now. And Becky is head and shoulders above all the rest of the female talents, other than Britt Baker. But she has that it factor. I mean, she beat Ronda Rousey So she has that credibility. She was legitimately the champion for 2 years.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
yeah, and I see that. The reason I didn't go for somebody like that is because I'm thinking, yeah, they can carry off the talking and stuff. I just don't know that, because even with like Becky, she's as over as she can be, and she does great. But there's some of the girls she gets in the ring with, she can't pull off a good match with them because they don't know what to do.
I don't know. Well, they're going to be producing a TV show more than a wrestling promotion. They're not worried about going and selling out house shows. They're not worried about, drawing 20 to 50,000 people at a pay-per-view. It's going to be the same venue over and over and over. So you're going to have that crowd, which is very easy to program because it's kind of the Saturday night, WCW old Saturday night crowd. It was always those Universal Studios people. You can program them really easy if you get repeaters. So, well, that's a lot of what AEW did with a lot of their first showings was, they were out of that Daly's place all during COVID. They still allow fans in. So they got the same fans. You can program them really easy. And that's what Brady's going to have to bank on. So I just think he's going to need a little more mainstream a little more sizzle than steak.
Yeah.
He will need the undercard that has the steak. Let's put it that way.
And that's why my first thing was say somebody like a Rock or a Stone Cold, but they can't. Rock can still do it, but Stone Cold and even Rock now, he's not going to get back in the ring and go full time in the ring and do matches and stuff. Could he?
Yeah.
Yes. Stone Cold, no, because he can't do that anymore. Really, not with his neck and everything.
I think The Rock has one more match left in him, and it'll be against Roman Reigns, and he will pass the torch, whether it be this coming year at WrestleMania or SummerSlam, Survivor Series, something like that. I think sometime in the next year he will get back in the ring one more time, pass the torch to Roman. Because what does he have to gain out of winning? Nothing. Roman would be a mater man overnight. Stone Cold, he can't get in the ring no more. I mean, he done a great job with Kevin Owens on the Raw, but Kevin carried that match. He fed Stone Cold in ways that he needed to be fed to look like a star.
Yeah.
Like he was still someone.
And his timing was off, and there was some stuff that just looked sloppy, but his kicks looked worse than ever. But still,
if Stone Cold was an ambassador, that would be major. I don't think he would ever do Vince that way. But Freddie's going to have to pull maybe a John Cena. Maybe a John Cena, he might do something.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's a face John Cena. Like if he pulled John Cena over there and then John Cena said, you know what? I'm the face of this fucking company and go full blown heel finally. That might be
that might get them some. That'll move the needle a little bit. I don't think it'll take it as far as they would want it though.
Well, I really don't think nothing will. I don't know if America needs a third promotion at this point. We're beyond the days of WWF, WCW, and ECW.
Yeah, that's fair.
9 million households are not watching wrestling a week any longer.
No, and even the ones that are. And again, I go back to how they look at these ratings all the time. Say, oh, they did this rating. How do you know? There's so many people that don't just stream TV now versus being on cable. How do you really know what the ratings are? But whatever.
It is very curious.
But at the same time, there's less and less people tuning in all the time. And the folks who do tune in, like myself, I fast forward through half of it, and I got the hour and a half version of Raw, and I still fast forward the segments.
I turned it on. Until Cody come back, I got where I didn't even watch Raw. I would watch SmackDown. I watch AEW every week. And I really only watch SmackDown for Roman. Like
I fast forward through SmackDown to Roman, and I fast forward through several segments of Raw, except for like I stopped this week to see Edge's haircut look like Rhea Ripley's. I mean, I stopped for that just to see why.
Yeah, I was curious about that as well. Other than he was starting to get that fried Macho Man look, like it was looking worse and worse each week. Like no matter how he braided it, it was like.
But when he's standing next to Rhea Ripley, she's got the same haircut. It's like, did you go to her barber and say, just give me what she got?
They might go to the same prostitute.
Maybe so. Oh, but on that note, it's probably getting close to time for us to close out here, so we'll transition over to that. And on the way out, let's give a shout out to our friend Daniel Garcia. His Kickstarter for Xyber Ronin is actually, I think, officially over now, unless I'm mistaken.
It is.
But that doesn't mean the fun is over. That means it's just starting. So now he's going to continue building the universe, preparing to get the issues into your hands. I don't know if he's announced when issue number 1 officially goes out. Has he? I might have missed it.
It's in the next few weeks. He has it going. He has, I want to say, script 2 and 3 done. So they're like entering the early stages for art for issue 2. Atomic Vamp, he has a lot of pinups for that. That's going to be tied into the same universe, and I think he has scripts 1 and 2 done for it as well.
Yeah, and I bring that up because I wanted to make sure we tell everybody, even if we don't know, because I'll be honest, I've been out of touch for most of last week. You can go look at his Facebook at Daniel Garcia and on Instagram at D Garcia Comics and get some updates. But it should be pretty soon that issue 1 is coming out and getting into your hands. And Hassel, you said that his artist actually had a new pinup book coming out.
Yeah, Daniel Black is a guy that works with Daniel a whole lot. He has a great pinup book coming out pretty soon. You can find him on Facebook. He's on Instagram. He's really active on Facebook, but he's very interactive. He has a lot of art on there. And you can reach out to him and he'll do, custom pieces for you or whatnot. But he's done some of the design work for Daniel, and he's actually something that me and Daniel are kind of correlating on a little bit. He's done some design work for me for something that possibly coming up pretty soon. And he's just a great artist, and he's got a really, really cool pinup book coming out soon. So check him out. Go on there and look at his stuff. He's a very, very talented young man.
Awesome. And you also had said that we've got a fan of the show, a friend of the show, who's actually getting into podcasting as well. And we wanted to give a shout out to him. And I think you have more of his information than I do because we just got to talk about it earlier today, and I didn't have a copy of it in front of me. So I'll pass that over to you to share his info.
Yeah, I want to get into he's a big friend of the fan, Chris Daly. He has a podcast that's kicking off pretty soon here. He's in the early stages of getting everything together there, but it's called Fueled by Weird. And, like he said, everybody has hobbies and interests that fuel who they are. These are the things that fuel your weird. What fuels your weird? He's a cool guy. He's on Facebook, Instagram. Check him out. And definitely check his podcast out. This says kick it off very, very soon. But Chris Daly, you will not be let down.
Excellent. And with that, while we're talking about all of our friends, make sure you check out our sponsor, The Zone Collectible, for all your nerdy needs. You can find them at 305 Main Street in Tifton, Georgia, or on the internet at thezonecollectibles@gmail.com and on Facebook at Thezone Collectibles, and help support their cause of bringing unity through community. Fandoms unite. And with that, I think, Hassel, we've got a giveaway plan for this week. I know I was out of touch some, so it was kind of on you to pick it out this time. I'm sorry about that.
Well, we missed last week, so we kind of had to double down our efforts and, win you guys back a little bit. But Colton Nesbitt, we can't thank you enough for all the love you show us, especially on Facebook. You reach out all the time. You're very interactive. You shoot the breeze with me. You'll message me occasionally. And you listen to the show. That's what we need. But seeing as, we had 2 weeks worth, we have a custom sketch by Foxfoot Crafts of Indiana Jones. You're the winner of this. We have a Flash $1 million print, a Thor $1 million print, Green Arrow $1 million print, and the Phantom. And all this is courtesy of our sponsor, the Zone Collectibles of Tifton, Georgia. Can't thank those guys enough, but I'll be reaching out to you. Get your info, get the stuff in the mail to you, and get it on out to you.
And remember, everybody, all you got to do to enter these weekly drawings is to like, subscribe, share, or comment on any of our social media. Hassel's going to tell you where to find those at in just a moment. But all you got to do is go on there, show us a little bit of interest and love, and we'll hit you back. And that enters you for a chance to win in one of these drawings. And we do have a big prize coming up that we're going to do an actual drawing and stuff for. Unfortunately, we haven't, just because of my schedule lately, we haven't been able to get together and plan that out. So there will be news of that coming in the near future. maybe the next couple of episodes, possibly maybe a couple weeks from now, because I'm out of town again next week, so we'll have a little bit less time to talk, but we do have some plans for that.
We'll have one for the summer and one for Halloween. So, and I'm sure we'll cook up something by Christmas. But for a fact, there will be a huge one for summer and a huge one close to Halloween once Monster and I get a little more time to sit down and discuss the dynamics. But it will be unparalleled and big.
Yeah. And with that, I think that brings us to a close for today. Hassel, before we leave, though, we've got to tell them where our social media is, because I almost forgot, so they can enter.
There you go. Obviously, you can find us at YouTube. You can find us at the Nerdy Man Room Show on there. Go to Instagram, Nerdy Man Room Show. You can go to Facebook, and I'm at Hassel Hutchison / Nerdy Man Room Show, just because it's easier to do it this way. Go to Twitter, and we are Nerdy MR Show.
And join us here next time as we have a very special guest interview that we'll tell you more about as we get closer to it. But until then, live nerdy and support your local comic shops.